Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I am Shadow Fox, and this is the Flow. We are having a backwards day today, and I have a very, very special guest. Paul James Sisler II. Hello. He actually does in the moment and he actually is my guest today. So, hello, Paul.
Well, hello, hello. A little switcheroo here today.
Yeah, it's a backwards day. It's kind of like having breakfast for dinner, right?
Exactly. And I love bacon, eggs, and potatoes for dinner. Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, I like pancakes myself, but you know, this is what's going to be really special today because Paul really is a pretty good friend of mine, and he does so much for so many people. And I'm trying to highlight his efforts for what he's trying to bring forward to the mass populace, actually, you know, helping expand people's awareness to things that are going on. Now, his book, which is, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is The Red Herring Effect by Paul James Sisler II, for which I have read. And it's pretty much it's politically based. Yeah, it offers solutions, but what we're going to do is we're going to tie it in to the flow, the energy around us. How I would like to focus, Paul, if we could, a little bit on the human rights, pretty much. Again, I would just like to start an interview because I'm not the interview type of person here. Okay, I usually just have the conversation. So if we're gonna do this kind of halfway backwards, okay, Paul, where were you born? What's your date of birth? Give me your social security number and definitely give me your numbers to your Visa card. Okay, that's the interview. That's the only information I got.
Well, the Visa card wouldn't get you too far. You might have to get a cup of coffee. I was born on Christmas back in the 60s. We'll leave that at that. A Gen Xer all
those,
the way.
those were redundant questions, Paul.
Oh, I know they were. I know, but I thought I'd give a little to it.
Okay.
I,
So
I,
can I just ask you a question? I don't
sure.
mean to interrupt, and then
Yeah.
I'll let you fly with it. But what was it? What was it that really kind of got you like motivated to sit your butt down and actually write this? What part really kind of like got your goat that really just said enough was enough? I know you have a lot of the solutions, but let's try to stay away from the actual political part, but I don't know how we can separate the political part with human rights. So
It's
I don't think we can really separate it.
no, you can't. You can't. My motivation for writing the book, when Donald Trump said that there were very fine people on both sides, I saw how this country was going to go,
Okay.
and it's and again, I'm not going to go into the political aspect. It's not that I'm saying Trump was the root of all problems. He's just a symptom, okay? Because we have a lot of problems in this country with how people are treated, and
Yes.
I saw how this was going to go, and you can look at today at how there's women's rights are being taken away, trans people are being dehumanized. When you look at what's going on, they're banning books in schools. Um, I saw all this happening. I knew this is where we were going, and that's why I wrote this book to hopefully educate people on what has happened in the past, what is happening right now, and where we're headed if we don't change things. And that's what we have to do is we have to change things because if not, people think that it's bad now. You just
Uh-huh.
wait because it will get a lot worse if we allow it to happen.
So let me ask you a question then. If we have, when we're looking at human rights, and again, we have everything from LGBTQ. I think I got that right. Um, we have the blacks, the browns, the indigenous, and everything in between. Okay. Then we also have the differences between even religious basis, and it's like, we are the United States. We were built upon freedom,
Mhm.
and what I'm seeing is that freedoms are really just being taken away, but yet they're saying we're fighting for your freedom. It's like, is that a catch 22? Where's the logic in it? Because they're just not adding up. I mean, maybe I'm seeing things
No,
completely away, which
no,
I don't think so.
no,
But
nobody's fighting for your freedoms.
yeah,
Okay, nobody's fighting for your freedoms. They're fighting for monetary gain. Okay,
yes,
so
yeah,
know the difference. What they proclaim they're doing and what they're actually doing are two different things.
hmm,
If you make note here, I put up tribunal2021.com. Okay.
yes,
If people were to type that in and they were to go in and see, in October of 2021, the United States was found guilty on 5 counts of genocide against Black, Brown, and Indigenous people.
oh yes,
Okay.
yes, I
And
remember.
that's not in the media, it's not a big thing. If either side was truly fighting for your rights. Now, I want you to think about this because a lot of my liberal friends are going to be pissed, but if the liberals were truly fighting for your rights, why didn't they just blow this up?
Yeah,
Because they don't want the people to know the country they're living in. All right. There are one of the counts was environmental racism. Okay.
okay,
And when you look at the healthcare industry, all right, as one aspect of the environmental part, um, Black, Brown, and Indigenous people are treated differently than white people. Okay. Women are treated differently than men.
hmm,
I mean, I saw this when my wife was dying of cancer.
yeah,
I and myself in 2011 was in an accident and went through 12 surgeries. I was went through physical therapy, and I was treated like a king by these medical professionals. My wife, on the other hand, was victimized.
yeah. Yeah, and I just like to make a mention of this because again, it just doesn't sound right. It doesn't come around. I believe it's the state of Texas, if I'm not mistaken, that is one of the judges is voting if the what they consider the abortion pill. All right, they can call it whatever they like, but there's a term for that medication, and that could be very well held, and say, nope, nobody can get it anymore.
Yep.
Once that it sets, that's going to set a precedence. And that also means that many other different medications, like if they don't like you or you're not on their side, um, other things, it's going to start a precedence, Paul. Where are our rights in any format? And we're going to get back to the energy and working through this. But think about it. Um, if they're going to ban that pill, then I would like to see Viagra banned because
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, I'm not, but what's equal and what's fair is fair. Then what are they going to say? Oh, well, guess what? You have diabetes. So, hmm, I don't know. You're not eating healthy or something. And so therefore, let's just, we'll get away with the insulin. You go ahead, just have some, sugar or something, frosting. You'll be good to go. I mean, really, where does this end? They're going to start a precedent. So, where are the rights in any capacity, Paul? Any capacity. Then they're going to ban, oh, well, now we can't do chemo. Oh, wait a minute. No, chemo makes too much money.
Well, I don't know if you've heard or not. Up in Idaho, there's a few hospitals that they're um, they're not doing pregnancies, they're not doing deliveries, they're not doing prenatal care because they're losing doctors. Now,
Um,
doctors are held to federal law for
yeah.
standards on what they have to do to make sure that they guarantee the health and life of a human being. So when you
Right.
have a woman that goes in and she's pregnant and she's having complications and they would have to terminate the child to save the woman's life, they can't do that
Yeah, I
because
know.
Idaho passed a law that disallows it, that goes against their oath as doctors.
So,
Okay,
so that really comes down to our right to life. To,
correct.
I mean, health care. I mean, come on, you got a booger in your
Yes.
nose.
So the
I
doctors
mean,
doctors are leaving Idaho in droves, and in fact, the OGBYN, women's health, those doctors are leaving
yeah.
because
So then
again,
let, let me ask you a question, Paul. So who was the brains? Who was this major like intellectual, intelligent, like kind of like Einstein that decided to bring and say, "Oh my goodness, well, we don't like these laws." Now we've been working on it for well over 50 years. Okay, and now it's coming into fruition. Well, guess what? They've had the same motivation, the same hidden agenda coming forward for so many years. And guess what? Thoughts, beliefs, ideals, idealism changes. I mean, from one generation to the next. I mean, think about it, Paul. Hey, I didn't like what my parents did to me. So guess what? I'm not going to, do the same thing to my child because I didn't like it. Or vice versa, hey, everybody each their own. But seriously, where in what logical format, and it when we're looking at this big agenda
Mhm.
to keep us dumb, let's ban books, let's burn books, let's not teach about our history, because if we understood the history, maybe perhaps we can try not to repeat it. We
Mhm.
can learn from our mistakes, but no, we're not going to do that. Seriously, Paul, we've talked about this on in other podcasts on the flow, and it's like that is that very old, stale, stagnant energy. It's
Yes.
not. It's not filled with light. It's not filled with love. I don't know where anybody's thinking there's some loving in here. It's just not computing.
Well,
And our rights, I mean,
yes,
women are going to lose their lives.
they are. They, they,
You
they
know,
they are. Hysterectomies are up because doctors can now perform them as a health related aspect because if a woman gets pregnant, she could die. So, and since they can't, in some states, they can't do birth control, they're cutting out other the IEDs and stuff like that that women can use for birth control. They're outlawing them. So women are getting hysterectomies. All right. Now, in 2022, there were, I think, 800 deaths related to maternal deaths where women were dying in pregnancy. We've already had in this year alone something like 1,200.
oh my
Okay.
God.
Yeah. So,
Infant mortality's up too.
yes. So, when you start looking at the things that are going on, let me take this back a second. Okay. Let's go back to the 18th Amendment prohibition. They outlawed alcohol. Organized crime rose. Death rose because people were killing each other for freaking alcohol.
Yeah.
So on and so on. The criminalization, the bootlegging, all of these things that were taking place allowed for criminality to, become the forefront. Then they write the 21st Amendment to repeal the 18th, okay? Because it didn't go the way they expected, all right?
Okay.
And that took
Yep.
something like 8 years or 13 years or something. I can't remember. I'd have to look. It's in the Constitution here. Um, in the Constitution. Okay. You should read it. Okay. People should read it if they haven't. Okay. So they can understand what's happening. What we're looking at now with all of these banning of books and these laws, these abortion laws, these anti-LGBTQIA laws, these things that are oppressing people, you have
Uh-huh.
to remember that as you do this, chaos will ensue. And people are like, yeah, I don't like those people and I don't like those people. I'm glad that this is happening. Then
Right.
it's like, guess what? They no longer like you either.
That's right.
Then what are
You
you
know,
going to do?
you know,
Because you
and
allowed
when
them to take away your right
yep,
because you were happy taking away other people's rights. But
yeah,
eventually it's going to come back on you.
yep. And again, when you think about it, you know, how about that golden rule? You know, kind of do unto others as you'd have done unto you. And
Yes,
it's like, you know, for instance, if you don't believe in abortion, then don't have one.
correct.
But don't force that belief upon another individual just because you think it. Because I'll tell you, there's a whole nother explanation that has yet to come forward about when does life begin.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'll just tell you, point out, when does the soul enter the physical body? Because without the soul, there is no life. Without breath, there is no
Well,
life.
here's what I don't get.
I'm like,
You have all these Bible thumpers that are like, pro life. The baby's got to, you got to let it be born and blah, blah, blah. When you read the Bible, okay, I can pull up 80 some aspects where, life begins at first breath. God had no problem with taking from the womb. I mean, when you look at the Bible is pro abortion, not anti abortion. Okay. But yet you have these holy rollers out there insisting that it's God's will. No, no, no. This is just propaganda that people fall for because one, they've never read the Bible.
yeah,
Okay. Again, they've never read the Bible. They've never read the Constitution.
yeah,
They've never educated themselves on what's really going on. And they truly don't get that the route that we're going is the biggest dehumanizing infiltration that this country has ever seen. All right.
yeah,
Because we're headed back towards, I think it's Mississippi that's bringing back Jim Crow laws.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, when you start looking at how they're enslaving us, this is all corporate driven,
Yep.
politically driven, motivated by money, and people are just, you have people like me who are fighting to try to, not fighting, actually proposing solutions and trying to do things. And you have
Right.
other people that are pushing back, trying to get rights taken away.
Yep.
It's
So, so now the other day, um, you had Matt Meyer on, or Matt
correct.
Myers, and there
Mine,
was
no
something Meyer. Um, there was something that he had made a mention of, and it was called the People's Movement or something like that. I wrote it down. I don't have it in front of me. Sorry, guys. You know, I blew it. Whatever. Dropped the ball on that when I left in the other room. But you know, I think when he was speaking, he was talking, and he said it and so eloquently in one little sentence about how what both political parties coming forward are not what the actual mass amount of people as an entire entity are looking for.
right.
It's like both, and he said it so eloquently. I seriously, I don't know if you happen to have that, because I think you did put it up as a because you have the tribunal up. What is
Right.
it? The banner or something. I think you put that up there for people. Might be something for others to check around. It doesn't necessarily mean we're looking at politics, but we're looking at those grassroots so that we can be heard, because this is where our freedoms are, within our voice, within our actions. And you know, Paul, I just, the
Spirit of
what? Yeah,
Mandela, spiritofmandela.org.
it was the other one. It was, well, maybe it's in there because he mentioned it was the People's Movement or something or other. That's okay. That's all right.
Yes.
Um, I just I just think at this point in time, Paul, I mean, the work that you have done and that you're bringing forward and bringing awareness to what um, people believe are our rights and where they're not. And if you have that thing you can post,
Oh,
you,
yes. This?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And can you talk about that a little bit, because I
Yes.
think it's very important that people recognize that your book is really starting to take notice. And if they haven't gotten it,
Yes.
hey, nobody says that everybody's got to agree with everybody, but there are
This,
solutions. And
right.
right now, even I think it was Yang. I think it was Yang that says people are those in politics, they're not looking for solutions.
No, they're not. They're
They're
not.
not.
International Peace Research Association. Okay.
Mhm.
If you go to volume 12 in 2022, issue one, and you go down to books, new publications, there's a lot of really, really good books in there, including my,
Oh my goodness, look at that. Woohoo!
okay.
Wow.
So, yes,
Wow.
yes. Not only that, in relation to the tribunal that I had up there, I'll put it back up. Um, my book was submitted into this. Okay. Um, Here's the thing about my book. All right. My book is not partisan, it's not about Republicans and Democrats. All right. I only bring them up briefly as examples. And outside of everything else that I talk about, I don't mention the mentality of the sides because
Yeah.
the parties play no relevancy.
Yeah.
Okay. I point out the problems that we're facing in this country. Okay. And I come at it from both sides. And here's where I might play like the Democrats might say this and the Republicans might say this. But
Okay.
here's what the real issue is. And
Yes.
this one's not doing anything and this one's not doing anything. So I try to point out what the problem is. I try to point out the critiques of the issue, what we've done historically in relation to the issue. I read over 1,000 case laws, and I got about 200 cited in my book that demonstrate the mentality of people and what they try to do. And then I point out a solution. Now, granted, my solutions that I point out may not be the only way. I am open to more aspects on improving the solutions that I have submitted.
Okay.
Okay. But for what's going on in this country at this time,
Yeah.
what I created at this time are the best solutions. And none of it's anything new. The only thing new in my book is my taxation system. And outside of that, everything is something that was already been talked about, but nothing's being done.
Right. And this is, again, this is why we're really having a backward stay, Paul, because you have a unique position and for what you're bringing forward and all of the different segments for in the moment. And by the way, guys, this truly is in the moment. It's just this is the flow, and we're having a backwards day. you know,
Yes.
so you know, and Paul, it's like you have so many great guests on. You have great segments, and there's lots of information that's being brought forward. Like, for instance, even with Stoicism. And here's the thing I'd really like to make a mention of this. Um, with some of these segments that Paul does, and say the Stoicism, the information when they're going through and evaluating the meditations, so on and so forth, there is a philosophy behind that. And if you look back even to Marcus Aurelius, the information where does that come from? It comes from esoteric, metaphysical. occultism, all, I mean, some of the ancient teachings from, Buddhic and Tibet, and, there's a mixture of it all. And it's like you cannot separate them out. You can't just say, well, I'm only going to listen and study Stoicism. Well, then guess what? Then you've just missed the entire part, like how the natives and the indigenous teach about stepping into the flow, watching nature, becoming observant, becoming that um, observer. Okay. And this is what has not happened. That what I'm seeing when we're looking at the human rights, Paul, people are not stepping into the being the observer. They're
Correct.
kind of like on the ship getting tossed from pillar to post, and it's like, oh yeah, we'll just hang on for a while and ride out the storm, so to speak. Well, guess what? I think we got a hurricane going on, guys.
Well, I want to point out, since you brought up in the moment, okay, I want you to really think about this because I have an agenda with this whole show.
Yeah.
And I'm going to break this down for people in case they truly don't get it. Okay.
Yes.
In the moment is right now. In this moment,
Yes.
who are we? What are we doing? Where do we fit? Now, look at what I put on this show. I have 2 writing shows. Why is writing shows important? Because books are knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether you are someone that just simply likes to read books or you have an interest in writing a book. My writing shows with L.R. Evans and TPA Wolfrick, they're there to help educate people on how to write a book and maybe highlight some books. Now, I'm not telling people what books they have to read and what books they shouldn't read. I am telling you how to write a book and giving you some ideas because everybody's a writer to some degree. And if somebody has something that they want to get out there, here's a good way to do it. Write a book. Write a book.
It gives them a voice.
I have a book. This is my nonfiction book, and I'm in the process of writing a multitude of fiction books.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a voice.
It's good. It's healthy. Then we have the flow. It's about spirituality. We're not catering to Christians. We're not catering to Muslims. We're not creating to Wiccans. We're not creating to Satanists. But guess what? All of them are welcome. Everybody can come in and feel what they feel. And we are talking about love and joy and happiness and what people can do to better improve their lives.
Yes.
Right. And if you don't agree with what's being said, that's fine. Go somewhere else. I don't care. But if you get something from it, which I hope you do, you're going to learn that we're about love and peace.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Then I have comedy and controversy. Yep. I want to make you laugh a little bit. And granted, I am bringing some controversy. I'm talking about controversial topics. And, and there might be people that go, but Paul, you're hitting hard on the right. Yeah, because the right is hitting hard on the people. So am I unhappy with the left? Oh, you absolutely better believe it, because the left is no better in so many ways. So this isn't an attack on the parties. It's attack on people's actions. When you have bad actions, I'm addressing them. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you're doing wrong, I'm going to point it out.
Well, the actions come from belief systems, dear.
Yes.
And they come from the hidden agendas of
bringing
stuff forward.
And that's what I try to bring forward. And if I can, I try to bring a little comedy with it and make people laugh. Then I have Becoming Stoic. I'm bringing to you philosophy, different philosophies, how some of the people from thousands of years ago thought, like Marcus Aurelius, how some modernists like Rene Descartes thought, and I will get into some philosophers of today. And we are trying to bring to you how to be a better person. Becoming Stoic is about being virtuous and living a good life and treating others with respect.
Yep.
And to be a Stoic, you set your emotions aside. And this is to say that you don't, I'm not saying get rid of your emotions. I'm saying you got to learn how to control them, because The greatest Stoics are the most emotional people, and you have to learn how to control those emotions to bring forward in good faith, good intentions, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm bringing.
And and Paul, when you take a look at what Stoicism, okay, is I think it's probably one of the bigger peeves with those who are Stoic will sit there and say, everybody thinks that you're not showing any emotional component, and it's like bury that. I, it's like one of those pet peeves where they sit there and they say, no, but this is not what it is. So we're going to have a conversation around this to show people that it is the ability to learn to govern those emotions done through thought and logic and reason. Okay. And if you do have like a bad day and you do have, hey, man, that's part of it. That's part of the flow. Well, here's the same thing that I will say with the information that I bring forward about laws. Now, I haven't specifically spoke on a whole lot of laws, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but the philosophy behind them is constantly interwoven with every single thing that I ever talk about, ever, because it is so much a part. Energy is always around us. And so when the Stoics say, "Oh no, we can't go into the esoteric because it's all this, that, and everything else," or it's so abstract for this. Is it really? What do you know about it? Is there? Do you see when we're speaking that there's an alignment from Stoicism and also for what I speak about with energy? Thought is energy. Oh my gosh! How can you separate it? They cannot be separated. And so that's where my pet peeve is, right? Because the Stoics say, oh, people have this perception that Stoics don't have emotion, right? Which is all bullcrap, right? And then I'm over here because it's the same mechanism for us to learn those techniques through different aspects of learning to govern ourselves, right? And now we're going to tie it right back around very quickly, Paul, because think about it.
Yep.
Those states that are coming down with such strict laws against people, women, for instance, with the abortion or LGBTQ or voting rights. I mean, let's just go down the line, okay?
Right.
Think about this. Those states, every single one of them, thoroughly enjoy the governance of their own state aside or separate from the federal government. Yet, yet, they will not offer their people the same governance for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so those people truly who have to feel they have to govern someone else, they cannot govern themselves.
Right.
Think about it. Now, this is law. I'm sorry. It's in there. It also comes back into stoicism, that emotional component, like wham, wham, wham. Okay. Um, so think about that again, and I'll say it again. Those, I don't care if it's in a family unit or if it's a state. Those who feel they have to govern someone else, control, dominate, manipulate, control, all of that for their way of a belief system, I'm sorry, they cannot govern themselves. Because if they could, they would never do it because it would be an oxymoron. And that is also law. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my. We'll get into that. You guys will have to check out my book when it comes forward because it's in there. Go ahead,
Yep.
Paul.
I'm going to give an example of a true Stoic versus your average person versus your sociopath, psychopath, narcissist. Okay. You're in a war. The guy next to you gets his legs blown off. All right. The narcissist, the sociopath, is either going to just let him lie and just keep on going, or might bandage him up and then just go out and shoot another guy and not think anything of it. It's not going to affect him in any way. They're just going to keep on going as if it's just part of life.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a stoic. The average person is either going to stand there in shock and not know what to do, is going to curl up in a ball or whatever. That's what the average person is going to do. The stoic is going to repair this person, bandage them up, and then in the first moment of peace, when no one's around, is going to ball his head off. Because that person, the emotions, whatever it was, whether it was fear, whether it was anxiety, whether it was shock, whether it was whatever it was, they held it all back. They got the job done, and then they have their release later.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the stoic.
Yep.
Most people would say that's a hero or that's a blah, blah, blah. It could be somebody getting a cut, you're chopping stuff and you cut your finger. Some people are just going to be like, oh my God, and be freaking out, blood everywhere. The psychopath is just going to label it up and be nothing. The stoic is going to be like, okay, let's handle it and all that. And it's just like, oh my God, I could have done things differently. And then they're going to realize that, oh, I need to be more careful. I need to blah, blah, blah. There is a difference. Stoicism is about virtue. Okay. Yep. If you really want to know about Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, probably one of the greatest individual Stoics out there. Pythagorean.
Yep.
Pythagorean's theorem. Okay. Mathematicians.
Yep.
The Pythagoreans, they were probably the most Stoic community that you're ever going to find. And then we have a lot of modern day people that handle a lot of things, and I will go through that when we get to it on the show. But I would say the most stoic people today are women, because what's happening to them and how they've done things in life, period. They are the most controlled of their emotions. When people say we can't have women running things because they're just too emotional, no, women are stoics. Okay, trust me, they hold their shit together, while men fly off the handle, yell, scream, beat people up. Men are not stoics for the most.
I do know a few women like that. Let's not make a generalization, but
right.
Where you're speaking about that difference with what the stoic does, what we bring to the table also is showing people how can we discharge some of that negative energy, that emotional component, whether it be through utilizing smudging techniques like with sage. There's internal thought patterns or pretending, imagination, visualization that can also utilize to integrate or to release those emotional components in a healthy way without going off the handle and like going like to 0.60 in 2 seconds. And so when you think about it, what because Stoics hold the right hand, and over here the spiritual aspect holds the left, are they not still one same component?
When you look at spirituality,
don't look at it, just do it.
Well, I mean, there are people that go out and they talk spirituality.
Yeah.
Then there are people that live spirituality. So if you're living spirituality, it's not one thing on one hand and one on the other.
Right.
Okay. It's all one.
Yes.
It's all one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're out there and you're talking spirituality and you're not living it, then you're lying to yourself.
Yep.
And you're someone that wants to dictate what other people do. You are part of the problem.
Yes, because it's like, well, this is how I believe, and if you do this, you do it this way. Like, don't eat meat. You can't eat meat if you're spiritual, or you can't swear, or you can't do this. There are so many different components, and when people, what we call it, Paul, is there are people who talk the talk, and then there are those who walk the walk.
Yes.
Big difference.
Huge difference. And of the 535 politicians in Congress, there might only be one or two that walk the walk, because the rest of them, they talk the talk.
Well, corporate interests. So,
Yep, yep,
you
yep.
know, and the corporate interest is not the interest of the people. I'm sorry, guys. Didn't mean to bust the bubble, but yeah.
Yes, yes. It kind of goes hand in hand with the preface of my book. If I could, I'd like to read part of my preface.
Sure, please go for it.
I am an independent. I agree with some views on the left. I agree with some views on the right. I disagree with the propaganda both sides use to entice people to believe one side or the other is better, smarter, or greater. Both sides are bribed by lobbyists. Both sides put corporate interests above the greater good of the people. Both sides lie and deceive. The deterioration of this country and its gradual decline of true values have inspired me to write this book. Hopefully, through vexation or intervention, it will inspire people to truly see what is happening in our country. Bearing witness to the actions and the attitudes of people across this country reveals how divided our ideologies have become. The majority of the people, in one aspect or another, have established their personal beliefs, personal morals, and personal ideologies as a mission of superiority reigning above the greater good of all people. The aforementioned people create, encourage, and propagate false information, which allows fear, anger, hate, and evil to exponentially flourish. Maybe the ideology I live by concerns kindness, respect, honesty, treating others as I wish to be treated, and forming opinions based on actions instead of race, religion, sex, or anything else others have decided to choose to hate another human being. Maybe, just maybe, writing this book might inspire a little critical thinking. If I, as an average American, have the ability to see through the lies, then so does anyone who is actually willing to open his or her eyes. I truly fear the aforementioned haters not only see through the lies of their proliferating ignorance, but actually encourage the proliferation of these lies. I have trouble believing the majority of 320 million plus people are ignorant. If they are ignorant, then I have to believe they choose to remain ignorant. Maybe, just maybe, people do not realize who and what they have become. Maybe I'm confused. Could hating someone because she was born a she be absolutely righteous? Could hating someone because he or she was born a different color be absolutely righteous? Maybe hating just for the sake of hating is absolutely righteous. Maybe I have it all wrong. Murdering, raping, bullying, stealing, lying, and being hateful are all perfectly okay. No, I do not have it wrong. I am not confused. These are evil acts committed by evil people. There's not a place for evil at my table. So I ask you, who sits at yours?
Yeah, pretty good, Paul. Pretty good. But you know how I feel about, like evil, good, bad, indifferent,
Right.
or whatever. It's like just lower energy, you know. But
Yes.
but this is Moxie. She's my kitty.
Hello, Moxie.
Yeah, she got locked into the bedroom in here, my office actually,
Ah,
and so she's whining to go out. I may have to let her out if she's gonna be, because you'll hear her in the background the entire
not a
time.
problem. Not a problem.
You never know, but if I feel bad, it's like, oh no, it's a backwards day. I'm heading out. So go ahead, Paul. Just talk for a minute because I gotta let her
Not a
out.
problem. Not a
Okay.
problem. The whole point of bringing up this aspect of my book is I want people to take a look at themselves. Quit looking at other people and making your decisions about them. Take a look at yourself. First, look at who you are. Who do you want to be? What is it that you want to do? And do you have control over your own life? All right. Because you shouldn't be out there trying to control other people's lives if you don't have who you are established first. And if you like who you've established you are and you're doing bad things to other people, then you're just not a good person.
Well, Paul, you gotta see that sometimes people's view or perception, they think that they're doing a great job and they're doing,
Yes.
what's it may be right for them, but what's right for one person does not necessarily mean that it's right for all. For instance, there are uh, different cultures that dad is the male figure is the authoritarian. Okay, it's like his law, his rule. He comes home, he sets everything. Boy, oh boy, if he says you got to be here at 6 o'clock on the dot, you best, as a kid, you best be there at 6 o'clock on the dot.
Hmm.
Or guess what? You know, um, there's going to be some repercussions, and there are cultures that make sure that philosophy is stimulated continuously down through
Hmm.
generational aspects. Well, this is what ends up happening is because many of these uh, cultures will sit there and vote for a leader who is that authoritarian, just like their daddy. So the way I see it is kind of like they they have to have a dad figure. It has to be somebody has to be so strong and put that fist down, and this is how everything's run. And that's not how nature works.
Right.
That's not a flow. I'm sorry, it just is not in the flow because
Right.
that is friction. That is, but yet, look at I'm an adult. Okay, I had a parent. Okay, he's passed on. Um, I don't require a daddy figure. I'm a okay. I can run my life. I can manage myself to some semblance here. Um, I don't require a daddy figure, but that's me. Someone else may not be able to live their life or make decisions until they check with mommy or daddy. And I mean, they're full fledged adults. Like,
Yeah.
hey, let me run it by you. What do you think? Okay, no, I'm not going to do it. Or guess what? If you don't do it this way, then you're not going to get the inheritance. And again, those are control mechanisms,
Yep.
manipulations, all of that, the games people play, the poor me's, the whole 9 yards. So to me, I think a great leader is one who listens. I
Yes.
think a great leader is one that says, okay, well, we have this challenge, we have this issue. Um, where can be the solution and what can we best, how can we take a little bit from maybe each side because nobody's going to get exactly what they would like because if we do, then we have a dictatorship. And that means whether it's in a family, it could be a husband and wife. I mean, there's, and we can do the role reversals because there's some men that cannot manage money whatsoever. They can make it, but boy, oh boy. So the wife comes in, pays off all the credit cards, the bills, does everything, and they function great together.
Correct.
So, is it stereotypical to think that it's got to be the man that sits there and writes all the checks? How about the woman going out and making the big bucks? I mean, if you look back into the 50s, the 40s, when you're talking about, right after World War II, and there was, the baby boomers come, lots of babies were being born, and we got that white picket fence, Paul, a house and a car, maybe two. Wife stayed home. These are those cultural things that are passed down, and sometimes there comes a point when we take a look and we go, wait a minute, something just isn't right. I mean, I remember to have a child out of wedlock was like the worst thing in the freaking world. I mean, you were like, get that, the scarlet, the S on your chest for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
Now, now it's like overboard. Somebody gets pregnant, you're having that kid no matter what. Who gives a shit? No, you don't have to get married. No, we don't care about that. Just have the kid so we can create more little soldiers.
Right.
Um, again, when we look at culture, and I'm not bashing anybody's culture. I mean, I just have a privy of being involved in many different cultures. So I was never, the seed wasn't planted that it was the only way. Question: what makes this feel right, or why would it be? Just because I learned it one way, does it? I'm sorry, but there were times my parents were not correct.
Yes.
When I was born, I definitely did not come with instructions on the bottom of my ass or the bottom of my feet. Like you get the instructions on the bottom of a boot. How do you get the water out? Read the instructions on the bottom of the boot. Really, we did not come with instructions.
Correct. Correct. You know, it comes down to, if you're causing harm,
Hmm.
it's not right.
Yeah, but how do you know if you're causing harm? This is it, Paul. This is the major thing here.
People
What's the
people
big
have
picture?
people have to speak up.
Hmm.
Okay. If this is harmful and it's harming you, you need to say it's harming you.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there are certain things that may be harmful to one and not another. Just
Right.
like there's people that have allergies to peanuts, there's people that have allergies to strawberries. Sometimes things, I can eat strawberries and peanuts. There's people that can't.
Can't. Yep.
Okay. So having someone that takes over a leadership role, you might be good with that. You might need to be someone that follows someone in a leadership role. And then again, you might need to be somebody that is that leader, you know, because you know how to
Hmm.
organize and do things. And make note, I'm saying leader, not dictator, because there's a difference in that. Okay.
Oh yes.
Just
Hmm.
like with authoritarian versus authoritative. Okay, I had
Hmm.
authoritative
Yes.
parents. I didn't have authoritarian parents. All
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Um, Authoritative, there's choice. Authoritarian, there's no choice.
There, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So you have to look at things from a multitude of different ways. There are people that, you know, enjoy being controlled.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and
Hmm.
if there's no harm, then there's no foul. But if you're in a situation where you don't like what's being said or done, then you need to speak up. And people need to be open to it. Again, this is where fear comes in, you know, where people are afraid because there might be consequences to what they say or do.
Yes.
And now they have to deal with the harm that's being put upon them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that need to change to where people can speak about things without fear of repercussion.
Y-
Um,
Absolutely. Paul, and you just made a very, very important point, because it is being able to speak without fear of retribution, whether it is a sense of what you believe in or how we behave or act. It's that emotional maturity, all of those things together. And there are even cultures that um, we cannot express their pain, their sorrow, their
yeah,
isolation. What some cultures do to oppress women, um, or different minorities across the board. And again, this is where human rights come in, Paul. When
yes,
we, you know, going forward, and I just like to give you a few moments to express this part, because we're getting ready to close. Um, just give you a few moments, because it's that human rights. So what is it? I mean, because you've written the book, we've spoken on a couple of different points here, but to bring this around and bring it to a close, what are you, other than your podcasts and so on and so forth, and giving people a voice, and giving them an equal opportunity, as far as human rights goes, and the energy that creates that balance and that flow,
hmm
what are you doing, or what could even I do, or you know where can we come together and even more so perhaps. Um, because I know, Paul, you're very talented in so many ways. And again, this is why, I had John as my guest.
Well, one thing is participation.
Mhm.
Participate in more things that have a way of getting things done. I wrote a
You
book.
mean like more in the communities? Okay.
Communities. If you go to church in your church, if you go to gatherings of some sort, in those gatherings, within your own family structure, within work, when somebody's doing harm, point it out.
Hmm.
I wrote a book. I wrote an amendment that would guarantee everybody equal rights as an, so, but again, that is a foundation of government. That's government saying you're entitled to these rights. All right. Is this something that needs to happen? Absolutely. But people on a holistic value
Uh-huh.
should already feel that way. And there's a lot of people that don't, you know?
Well, Paul, why, if anybody, if people were concerned about human rights, obviously, like when you take a look, how far back does that go with when we were five counts of genocide, right? I mean, genocide. If you're not sure what the word is, perhaps look it up because this means there was some form of domination
Well,
and
yeah.
death and
Well, yeah.
killing and,
Our government is trying to eradicate
yes,
Black, Brown, and Indigenous people.
yes. And so when we take a look and we can get involved in any capacity, I would suggest, I really would. Here's a way to get involved is the Red Herring Effect by um, Paul James Sislick the second.
Yes, yes. And like I said, you don't have to agree with what I've written. Just read it. Open your mind up.
Yeah, expand it because it can create a different thought form, a different thought process, and it might just stimulate something and go, "Hey, man, we are all freaking whacked."
You know, most people, regardless of political affiliation, when you sit down and you have a conversation with them, most people have good intentions.
Yeah.
Most people have good intentions, but that same group of most people
Mhm.
also have a view somewhere within their thought process that they are superior to somebody else for whatever reason,
Oh.
whether it's religion, whether it's sex, whether it's race, whatever it may be,
Status.
status,
Hmm.
age.
Oh yeah.
They think that they have a superiority over somebody else. I have superiority over no one,
Yep.
and that's how I live my life.
Hmm.
I am superior to no one, and no one is superior to me.
Yep.
Okay. And when you start looking through that lens and you start treating everybody, truly treating everybody as you truly want to be treated, there is no racism, there is no bigotry, there is no xenophobia, there is no ageism, there is no classism. Because now you're looking at everybody as a human being
Hmm.
through the same lens that you want to be treated as a human being.
Yep.
And if you truly, truly take that in and truly start to treat people that way, there won't be any of this discontent. It would all be gone. As
Yes.
Diana says, if if love was the currency,
Yep.
just imagine how much better this world would be.
Yeah, exactly. And Paul, thank you. Thank you for being a guest on the flow. Um, this is so weird because I'm so used to seeing it on the other side. It's like, oh, we are a backwards day today. But Paul, thank you for all that you do in so many different capacities and giving a platform for many different views to come forward, because how can people gain an understanding if they cannot see another side without the interference of all the discord and the screaming or the hollering, right? Where you can actually sit down and pose questions.
Yes.
You know, I mean, so Paul, we're time's about up here, and I'm gonna have to close.
Okay.
Um, so can you please very quickly just give the rundown on some of the shows that you do have coming up, and we'll be doing Journey Within. Usually, Diana hosts on Wednesday, so I'm going to be hosting today because she's having a day. Yeah,
Yes.
well
Yeah.
deserved.
Happy birthday, Cornelia Blackmore.
Oh, that's right. Happy, happy.
Yes. I have the Vellum on Friday. I have Comedy and Controversy on Saturday, where we're going to be talking this week about immigration. Hoo-hoo, oh my.
Oh
Um,
my.
Sunday, Becoming Stoic with Elizabeth Masters. Tuesday, we have L.R. Evans on Tuesday Takes. On the 30th, I'm going to have Holden. Coletta, I think his last name is. I can't remember now. He's going to be on the 30th from the Forward Party. So
Oh,
we're going to have
okay.
a conversation about the Forward Party and what it means.
Okay.
So yes, and coming in May or June, Matt Meyer will be back on in the moment. So
I would like to say hello to him, by the way. So hello. But
yes, yes.
Paul, thank you. Thank you so very much.
Oh,
And
my pleasure.
thank you for tuning in, guys. It's been an honor, and I hope you guys had a chance to really get to know Paul a little better. So
And
thank you,
remember,
Paul.
be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way.